Hello everyone, my name is Long Klee. Today, welcome back everyone to the Three Things on Tuesday show, especially in this episode 19, which is at the end of June 2020. We are going to look at market updates. Those number has happened last month, May 2020. And we are going to look at how many houses that get sold within last month, what is the sale price, how quickly they get sold after listed, right? So all those important number, because May 2020 is actually May is actually the month that we are kind of 3 months going to COVID-19. So what has been happening, right? Remember, before COVID, there's a lot of great information, great news for seller and buyers, right? So what have been happening for the last 3 months that we're dealing with COVID. So let's take a look in this episode to see what's going on with the real estate market. Now let's take a look, okay? The first number that I would like to invite you to look at is the new inventory number. Now those set of number are gonna allow us to see what kind of supply that we have on the market. Right? Especially we are looking at the new inventory as well as a total inventory in the first couple of slides, right? The new inventory of the months, meaning that those houses get onto the market is about 8,500 listing on the market, get onto the market in May 2020. Now, why do I say about May 2020 in June? Because that is the most current number that we got, right? We're looking at, when we look at the real estate, we don't look at 1 day or 2 days. It doesn't tell anything, right? So we have to look at the long term, right? So that's the reason why we have to wait until June to be able to see the data in May. Right? So in May 2020, we have about 8,500 listings coming into the market. So that is not a very good news because it's actually a decrease of 21.5% as you see here. As you see here, that's a big drop. Right, that's the big drop because normally in March, April, and May are those months that a lot of people are gonna get their house sold onto the market for sale, right? Because those are the best season to sell those houses, right? But because of COVID, obviously, we get less number of houses onto the market for that reason, right? That is, again, 21.5% decrease compared to previous year, right? Now, another also dropping number is the total inventory. At the end of May 2020, we only have about 16,870 housings available on the market at the end of May 2020. So now that is also another 21% decrease compared to previous year, right? So that has two contribution factors actually. One is obviously the new inventory is less, therefore we have a total inventory less, but we also have the number of sales that number of houses that get sold as well. So let's take a look later on to see whether the number or not, and we'll come back to this number to see whether it's actually a good news or bad news later. Okay, but now keep in mind we still have a very extremely low inventory of houses on the market, and that's the reason why still driving and that we'll talk about that later when the number come up. I kind of jump ahead of what I prepared. So let's talk about that in the later slides, okay? For the monthly sales now coming up. So monthly sales is actually only 6,860, right? That also a big reductions. That is a big reductions of 33% compared to previous year. Obviously, both sellers, but according to this number, both sellers and buyers are more conservative during COVID. The seller do not want to have their house on the market because of COVID, right? They don't want to allow people into their house to see those houses, right? And the buyer as well, they also take more conservative of not buying a house because who knows what could happen to the economic, right? And for that reason, they don't want to buy houses. And obviously, according to this, the monthly sales, the number of sales houses at the end of May 2020 is way below than regular market. Okay. The next number that we are going to look at, and this is kind of good news because this is actually the first good news that I ever talked to you in this episode, is the distressed sales, the number of distressed sales. So now when we talk about distressed sales, those are the people who cannot afford to make payment. Right? Even though, yes, unfortunately, there's a lot of people losing their job in this time because of COVID. However, the good news is not a lot of people are forced to sell their house. And in fact, there's only 0.6% of those houses sold, those sold houses are distressed sales, meaning that even if they are in distressed situation, they don't have to sell it, right? Because obviously right now there's a lot of protection program for the home owners at this time. So that explains why the number of distressed sales is so way below normal right now. It's actually 46%. It's actually 52% drop compared to last year. Okay. Now you can see this is the number of last year right here, about $10,000 houses more, but it's only about 6,000. So it's dropped almost 50%, compared to last year. The next number, we're looking at how fast, what the remaining, right? Remember, we have about 16,000 houses available on the market as of May of 2020, as of the end of May 2020, right? So those numbers gonna allow the market to last about 2 months and about 15 days, right? 2.46 months on the market, right? So if no houses get onto the market for the next 30 days, right? So the remaining gonna be sold within 2 months. That is the prediction, the supplies, the current available supply on the market, right? So, and then when we're looking at how fast they are sold, how quickly they are sold, last month is actually only 50 days. Okay, so how does it compare to previous months even? So previous month is about 51 days. So it's not improved a lot between 51 and 50 days. It could be because the lender is delayed in the process of verification and something like that. It could be delayed 1 day, right? So it's not big of a deal. So I consider it's a constant. So it's really regular, right? Average days on the market, 50 days. Obviously, we start COVID on middle of March, right? So for example, if you are start listing your house at the end of March, so by the end of May, you already get your house sold. So that's also a good news, meaning that you are able to sell the house, right, within 50 days. And again, a little bit longer than expected. It's a little bit longer than expected, but it's still good. It's still good, right? Because if it is not COVID, we potentially have a higher projection, right? Projection. But right now, it is at 50 days. That is how fast the house gets sold currently in May 2020, right? The next set of number, which is, I think, more exciting to people, is the sale price. Those are the most understandable. Is that a word? Yeah, understandable. Yeah. Maybe it's a word. It's the most easy to understand number is money. When we talk about money, everything is easy to understand. The median list price is $320,000. Right? Now, it doesn't mean anything if I say your number, but let's compare. Let's compare to May 2020, right? When I have the monthly market report in May 2020, the number is actually 309, right? The median list price is 309. But that month, we report a $10,000 more than last month. So what does this mean? That means the seller, even though more people do not want to put their house onto the market, but for those who does, for those who puts the house onto the market, the COVID doesn't impact the decision in terms of how much they want to sell the house. They don't worry about the market. They don't worry about the COVID that's going to impact the sale price, right? And in fact, another interesting number is when you compare to the report that I have in June 2019, it's actually $21,000 more than June 2020. So what? So it doesn't it doesn't indicate at all the seller. I mean, for those who do not put on the market, for sure. I mean, they already take extra careful. That's perfectly fine, right? To protect the family, not allowing people to get into the house and spreading the COVID, right? But for those who do, for those who put onto the market, obviously they even put a higher price than last year. So they are not impacted because of COVID-19. The next number is even more interesting because we can talk about listing price all day long, right? And at the end of the day, it's up to the seller to put whatever the price they're comfortable with, right? But does it make sense to the buyers to buy at that price or not? And the next number gonna tell us about that. The sale price, the median sale price, is actually at $295,000. So now there's a couple of things we have to note. First of all, it is less than the median list price, meaning that, okay, so maybe the seller has to reduce a lot of price after a certain amount of time that the house cannot be sold, and that's come down to the $295,000 house, right? But again, these are the numbers, so it's kind of compare between orange and apple, right? So that first observation may not be really accurate, right? Now come back to apple and apple comparison, right? When we talk about sale price of this month versus the sale price of last month, we actually, in May, is actually $5,000 more than this. Some of you might think, uh-oh, then it's gonna decrease. The price is gonna drop. Yes, it's dropped, and it's already predicted. Remember last month when there is a forecast, right? I'm gonna talk about the forecast for this month as well after this slide. But in the forecast, sale price of last month, we already know that it's gonna drop. We already know that. In fact, however, it dropped not as much as we predicted. Last month, we predict that it's gonna drop to $290,000, right? But we only dropped $5,000 instead. So that is a good signal. However, that is a good signal, even though it's dropped, but it's not as much as we predicted. So that's a good signal. Meaning for those homeowner get onto the market, you don't lose as much as we predicted. So that is our bad. But look at this number, is awesome, right? Even though it's dropped, but it's not dropping as much. Okay. However, another good signal is that even though it is dropped, it's lower than last month. However, when we look at June of 2019, we actually have $16,000 more when you compare to June 2019. So what does that tell you? That means we are not really in a bad situation. Right? Even though COVID, there's lots of buyers still willing to pay higher than last year price to get the house. Right? So $295 is a median, is less than the listing price, is less than last month. However, first of all, it doesn't low as predicted. Also higher than 2019. So a lot of buyers, a lot of people expecting to have a big drop and to jump in, similar drop to 2008, even though we have a drop because a slower market, right? We don't see that. We don't see the same situation happening yet, right? We're not going to see any big drop similar to 2019, 2008, I'm sorry, 2008, 2009. No, we don't see that yet, right? But we see a drop, but not much, okay? The last number, again, is a sell forecast price. Sell price forecast, I'm sorry, sell price forecast, which is actually an increase of $5,000 this month, right? So next month, you probably see an increase of $5,000. So for those of you, now why is that? What the reason? First of all, stay-home order expires, right? So people are more willing to go to look at houses, or they may get bored at home already after 2 or 3 months at home, right? They then tend to go out and buy more houses, go out more to look at houses. And the main driven reason is interest rate. Interest rate is such a low rate right now that a lot want to buy the house to take advantage of that. Any house that less than $300,000 gets sold within a day or two. We're not an hour, couple hours after on the market, right? So those are some facts, those are some hope that for the homeowner, whoever having their own house now, the selling price, the sale price start getting back up, right? Obviously, it's now predicting to increase $5,000 instead of continue the downtrend, right? So we see that this is a big win for the homeowner for next month. Thank you so much, everyone. That is it for today. I'm glad that you joined me to see the video. Hope to see you again in next week. I have a special announcement for those of you who are thinking of selling the house next week. So hang tight. It's going to help you save a lot of money in selling the house. So next week, okay, next week come back during about 5 p.m. on my page, and I'm gonna have a special announcement for you in regarding to how to save thousands of dollars in selling the home. Okay, thank you so much, everyone, and have a good night. Bye-bye.